Alright, trying to get back into where I left off at. I was saying some shit about the coil firing and whatnot. And then in the meantime there, I did film a couple videos of my Jeep running. Tried to show some live data with the all-tell with the knock sensors reading on the 4.0. And some of these videos are getting out of order. I don't know why YouTube's putting them up that way. I tried to upload them in order. One of the videos I said about mounting the knock sensors here to this coil log bolt holes. I mounted one up here near the alternator somewhere, the first hole, and then I mounted the other one for bank 2 according to the 3.7, because this is the computer I ended up using at the end. I mounted it near the back. Now they are centered 4 and 3 on the 3.7, but obviously it ain't gonna get a signal there. And these are these coil numbers. This is the confusing part, is the firing order is 165432. Now that is the 3.7, so it's 165432. And then on the Jeep, you got to use these numbers with these. So one is in the first spot. And what they're calling number 6 here is the second one. So it's the Jeep. So 1, 5. And they flop around. So I just kind of put one at either end to try to make this thing. Because if you stuck them both here in the middle, that didn't seem to work. If you spread them out, it didn't seem to work. It seemed like the best spot to put them was like right by the alternator and kind of like the second hole from the back or somewhere in here. It all depends on what sensors you use and if you actually break them putting them in. I guess you can over torque them. One of them has a bigger bolt than the other because they're kind of made so you can't screw it up when you go over on these blocks. But the bolt hole that fits that coil log, I found another bolt that was the right size, and it went through the cam sensor, and they had like a plastic gidgee in there to keep the bolt centered, so I didn't need that. I just found another bolt that worked, and it's running. I mean, it runs good, but the confusing thing is these numbers are hardwired into the 3.7 computer. So when you hook that up, you're going to have to hook cylinder 6 from the 3.7 computer to 5. Now you can do the coil overplug and probably the LS coils, but I'll get into something else that I found. So what I did here, as I was saying earlier, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the coils in the coil log or the coil pack for the van. The Viper's different, or the van's different. They're wired different, and they call the coils a different number. So that's where it gets confusing with the computers. So what you want to do is you want, whatever computer you're using, you want your cylinders hooked up to match this firing order. So 1 and 1, it's like I said before, it always fires. So if you were going to use the 3.3 computer, you want to hook signal 2 to 5. Now in the coil log, the way it's wired, it just so happens 1 and 4 are on coil 1, and 1 and 6 are on coil 1 on the Jeep. And the second one to hit is the second coil, and them are 2 and 5. And it doesn't matter, this could be a 2 here, because this fires twice. That's where we get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because when we're here, the first is 6, but the coils fire 1, 2, 3, 4, so they still fire in line. And that's the way it's wired with the stock Jeep coil log. But I'd get rid of it. It's just a pain in the ass. And then if something happens, like with my case, I did it because mine went bad. I did the reviews online. I wasn't paying $100 for a piece of tin and a $20 coil. So I just swapped the bracket off the 3.3 van. It's there. I made a little hook and welded. Now my Jeep's ass backwards because it's right-hand drive. So you're going to have to figure out what you want to do as far as mounting that thing. And like I said, my steering wheel and everything's on the left side, which some shit's in the way and some stuff isn't. But you'll figure it out. And then what I did for the fuel injectors was certain ABS wheel speed sensors. I work at a small little shop. We do basic automotive. I have no means know anything about programming these. I'm trying to learn. You probably looked at my bench. I got a $50 oscilloscope, an eBay soldering station. I dick with the ham radio stuff, and I build little circuits here and there. So I have an idea of reading some electrical schematics and whatnot. And the reason this Jeep computer's apart is what happened was I figured water got in it, and that's ultimately what killed this Dodge Ram computer 3.7 out of the 04. This wasn't broke. I put it in there and it ran, and I got excited and I just forgot about it. What I didn't do was seal the case up, and that thing ran great for better part of a year or so. And like I said, took it to the car wash, got water in it, started misfiring. Then it died. No cam signal, no nothing. I just reached in my pile and grabbed another computer out of a 3.7. And surprisingly, it worked. But what I did this one is, like I said, I twisted the wires together by just bridging the gaps for the coils, 1 through 6. Like I was saying here, the 3.7, I just took the wire going to the coil from the computer, and I twisted them two together, or bridged them in the computer itself by soldering in here. I called that coil 1, and then obviously with the 6-pack coil, I could put the wires wherever. Now, this isn't the computer, but there's another computer I have. It was for a 3.7. I pushed this thing in the garage because originally I thought it was a starter until I figured out I waxed that computer. And it broke when I tore it apart because I scrubbed it with alcohol. I'm going to try to put it back in and see if it works, because that one there let me calibrate my tire size and my dash and whatever. But I threw it in, and I don't know if those coils was bridged internally at all. And even though the 3.7's coil over plug, that it fires these two cylinders at the same time. Because when I plugged that computer in without tearing this bitch apart and doing the mod, my intention was to get it out of the bay. Just get it out of the garage. If it ran on 2 cylinders, I didn't care. I wasn't pushing it. Well, I plugged it in, and it runs great, and it's in there right now. And I didn't have to bridge the internal connections. So I don't know what's going on. Whether they have 2 individual drivers for each coil, and they fire them at the same time, or they're using one driver and it has 2 outputs. And basically, you could put the 6-pack coil on a 3.7 if you wanted to eliminate it. I don't know. That was kind of like an accidental discovery. The reason this is apart again was I tried to see if there's water in here, because that's what happened to this one. And I'm sure you guys Google searched and played games and whatnot. And I do some of the ham radio shit, and I programmed the bow fangs and whatever the hell I think that's a bow fang I'm trying to jailbreak. So I do know a little bit about this programming, but nothing at all with the computer. I mean, I know enough about it to be dangerous. This bitch was about ready to get a carburetor and an old school 4.0 distributor. And, I mean, I was going to leave the computer in, just put the throttle sensor on the damn carburetor shaft, and just kind of use the Jeep computer to run the transmission. That was my ultimate goal. And then when I started fishing around with these and did some research and talked to the Hemi guys, like, shit started to make sense here. But this thing will only let me record about a 10-minute video, and I'm going to stay fresh on the subject here and try to upload this while I'm recording the next one, because some of these are getting out of order, and it's kind of confusing for some people. So if you just jumped in here, just try to go back and make some sense, or watch them all and come up with your own conclusion. So I'm going to cut this off here, and then I'll explain what I did here.